All right, good evening, everybody, and welcome to another webinar that we're doing. We've had a good run. Every day we're doing one webinar, so much so that I'm almost running out of questions to do a webinar. Anyways, to start with, my name is Aneeq. I will be guiding you today through a question called Super ASCII String Checker asked in CodeVita 2014. And again, as I was saying that while this was asked in 2014, we still can use a lot of the topics that we used that time, so it will be quite helpful for you for that. All right. Uh, so before I start, as always, thank you so much for being online. It means a lot to us that you are trying to learn. Especially, it's just I think 1 week away. Next week, this time, many of you will have finished Code Vita. So we are excited to see how you perform in that one. Um, so just 1 week left. We are going to be lots and lots of more and more questions. We were just going through Code Vita 2019 questions. That is questions of people who have done it in zone 1. So those of you whoever was in zone 1, we have got some of the questions. They are going to release some solutions on that, some solution approaches about that really soon. So I really can't wait to share that. To know about those updates and all the other updates that we're going to be doing, please click the bell icon below, the subscribe icon, the bell icon below. Please click that. You really definitely should get the notifications whenever we are doing a live session. So you can get a notification by clicking the subscribe icon. Also help us reach out to more people by sharing this video and liking this video. If you have a class WhatsApp group, please share this video over there. The video link is existing even after the video, so if those of the people who missed watching this video can still watch it later on. So do share this in your class WhatsApp group. Do share it with your friends. It will be helpful for them. Don't learn alone, learn with your friends. Have fun, and Code Vita will become easier for you. Okay, so we're now going to check that question called um, super ASCII string checker. That's the question that we wanted to check. And let me just open that question. So the question is already uploaded on the Edyst platform. And let me just bring that up. 1 second. Okay. All right. 1 second. Let me just bring that up for you on the Edyst platform because I've just uploaded it today. Okay. All right. So here we go. So we have on the Edyst platform this question. So this is what the Edyst platform looks like. I'm sure all of you are aware. And in the string section, we have added this question called um, super ASCII string checker. It's just 10 points because it's a really easy question, but some of the techniques we learn are going to be quite useful to us. So it's called super ASCII string checker, Code Vita 2014, right? So that's what it's called, right? So let's look at this question. Let's have a look at this question. But before I start, just letting you know that this is part of the strings topic, and strings, generally speaking, involves characters and arrays. So if you are not good at characters and arrays, please go revise those concepts, especially in your language. In different languages, it can be very different. Like for example, in Python, it's different. In Java, it's different. In C++, it's different. So here you might need to remember your language specific syntax. Okay. So that's just a reminder for you. All right. So I go to Super ASCII String Checker. By the way, a lot of people are online right now on the Edyst platform, around 30 people. I'm wondering what are they doing. India is about to bat, and you're here studying. So I'm really proud of everybody here, all these 30 people who are online and coding. If you are already not online and coding, please get onto the Edyst platform and start coding. Okay. All right. So we have here the Super ASCII String Checker. Really short question. So what I'll do today is I'll read the question. We'll go through the question approach, and we'll just end it there. I'll leave it up to you to code because it's a really simple code to code, and I will not keep you long because even I want to go and watch the match. Even I am an India fan like you, so we'll just go through this question, the logic quickly, and then go back and start supporting the men in blue, right? Okay, so the question that's given is, in the byteline country, a string S is said to be a super ASCII string. Now, ASCII, you might remember, is a set of codes. So it's said to be a ASCII string if and only if the count of each character in the string is equal to its ASCII value. And in the byte line, the ASCII code of A is 1, B is 2, Z is 26. Okay. Our task is to find out whether the given string is a super ASCII string or not. In other words, what this question is saying is that I am given a string, let's say something like this, right? So I've given this string, and its string is C, ABC, BC, right? That's what the string is. And the output is yes. And why is the output yes? Because yes, it is a super ASCII string. What is the meaning of a super ASCII string? Super ASCII string here means that every character occurs exactly the same number of times as its ASCII value in byteland. So in byteland, A's ASCII value is 1, B's ASCII value is 2, C's ASCII value is 3, and so on. What it's basically saying is that in any string, A should occur only one time, B should occur only two times, C should occur only three times, and so on. If there is a Z, Z should occur 26 times, right? So that's what you should be checking for. Whether all of these numbers are occurring the exact number of times or not. In this case, C occurs 1, 2, 3 number of times. B occurs 1, 2 number of times, and A occurs just 1 number of time, right? So as you can see that the A condition is met, B condition is met, C condition is met. Therefore, yes, it is a super ASCII string, right? It is super ASCII. Okay. All right. Let's look at another example. The same string, if we add the two words dd to it, then what happens, right? So one second, yeah, there we go. Yeah, so if we add the two words dd to it, then A frequency is still 1, that is A occurs only one time, B occurs two times, C occurs three times, but D occurs only two times. Now this is wrong. D should have occurred four times. That's why this becomes no. Had D occurred four times, then it would be yes. So if D had occurred four times, it would be yes. So I hope you got the drift of the question. The question just basically says we will be given a string with all lowercase characters, and in all of those lowercase characters, what we are supposed to find is the frequency of each element. And once we have the frequency of each element, the frequency of each character should be corresponding to its position in the alphabets. So A occurs first, should occur only one time, B occurs second, should occur only two times, C three times, D four times, Z 26 times. Any other sort of frequency that they occur in, it is not a super ASCII string. Okay. So what's the first thing that we have to do over here? The first thing we have to do is here is actually take the input, right? So the input says we'll take the input, and let's just look at the input format so that we know how to take it properly. So we go here, yeah. So the input format says first line contains number of test cases t, followed by t lines each containing a string s. So standard input format of CodeVita, first the number of test cases, then take the string s. So by now I hope you know how to do this. That is, how do we actually take a first the test case t and then the s. So the first thing you'll do is you'll actually take input t, and then after that you'll actually run a for loop, something like in Java it would be something like this, while t minus minus greater than 0, or just a for loop if you want to. So this will run a test case number of times. Here you take your input string, so I take input string, right? And once I've taken the input string, do whatever logic I want to do to this string and print yes or no, depending on what we want to print. So how many times will we print this? We will print this test case number of times. So this, now here whatever we write here is actually the meat of the question, right? Meat slash logic of the question. Right. So how do we what is exactly the logic of this question at this point, right? What we've seen so far is just how to take the test case input. Yeah, so we just saw how to take the test case input. We saw how to where we have to print it and where we have to take the input string, but we didn't see the actual logic of the question. So for the actual logic, let's just go back to our approach. What we're going to first do is generate an array of 26 zeros. Now you'll be thinking, wow, this is random. Why are you suddenly generating an array of 26 zeros? So follow me here. Okay, what we're going to do in this question is, the question is basically coming down to, you are given a string, could be anything, A, B, C, D, so on, let's say, then again A, B, whatever, right? If we figure out the frequency of each character in the string, then we can check if it is following the required way or not, correct? So if, let's say, to see if A is occurring 1 or 2 or 3 times, we have to figure out the frequency of each of these alphabets. If we don't know the frequency of each of these alphabets, then we don't know if it's a super ASCII string or not. So we have to figure out the frequency of each of these alphabets in this string. How do we do that? There are many approaches, and so when I said that this question will be useful for you in future programs, this is the trick that I want you to remember. That is finding the frequency of a character in a string. That is the main question that that this challenge is about, and this is a fairly standard question. There are many ways to do it. The easiest way that we'll discuss today is via an array. Okay, this array we will call it as a frequency array. So it's a frequency array. That's the easiest way to do it. For those of you who are a little advanced in your languages, you can use something called a map. All right, a map is also a way to do it. There are different ways to do a map in Python, in C++, in Java. So go look up this data structure in your language. Okay, but a map is also another way of doing this question. We are going to look at the frequency array. Okay, and how does the frequency array work? It's again quite simple. The way a frequency array would work is, you first need an array. Okay, so you'll first create the array, and to count the frequency really of anything, what you're going to do is each index of the array. Okay, so let's say 0 here will correspond to A, 1 will correspond to B, 2 will correspond to C, 3 will correspond to D, and so on. We have over here till 25. So 25 will correspond to Z. Whenever, and these are all 0 to begin with because we don't know their frequencies. Whenever we encounter an A, we just go to this array of 0 and we do a plus plus over here. So we make it 1. Similarly, whenever we come across a B, we'll make it 1. Now, let's say we came across another B. The value is 1. We'll just increase it to 2. At the end of the traversing of the entire string, we'll realize that this array over here, this frequency array, contains of the frequency of all of the alphabets, because there are only 26 possible alphabets and we have been told that it's a lowercase string, so there will always be only 26 alphabets that are possible. Now in this array, what we have is, we are storing the frequency of each element that has occurred so far, and we have assigned this index to hold value only for A. That is, if a B occurs, we are not going to go and start suddenly increasing A of 0, because array of 0 is reserved only for A, right? So that is the easiest way of calculating the frequency of a number of a character in a string. The other way would have been, if the general way, that is, let's say if you had only 2 things or 3 things to take care of, you could have just used a counter. So like counter 1 or counter A, let's say counter B, counter C. But then you will get into the big problem of, you will have to start writing if conditions. If character equal to A, then counter A plus plus. Else if character equal to B, then counter B plus plus. You don't want to do all of that. Here, you know very easily, if it's A, then you have to just increase 0. If it's B, you have to increase 1. Now, how will we know that for A, we have to increase 0? That is, we have an A, B, C, D, E. How will the computer know absolutely how to suddenly map A to 0? That we'll just see right now. Like, how can computer decide, hey, it's A, so I'll store it in 0 properly? Because if we have to tell computer every time, hey, it's A, if it's A, then store in 0. If it's B, then store in 1. Then we could have just gone with this approach. We don't need an array. But we are using the array indexes here for something powerful, right? And I'll just come to that. So that will be, you'll understand why we're doing it. For some of you, you might already know the answer. In that case, it's just a good revision for you, right? So we generate an array of 26 zeros, and the array will look something like this, right? 0, 1, 2, 3, these are the indexes, and so on till 23, 24, 25, right? So these are the indexes that we get. Each of them would already be filled with zeros. So they are initialized to 0 because before we actually start filling in these numbers, we don't know the frequency of any of the characters in the string, right? Then what we should do is start traversing through the string to know which character we are at, and then update count of char I minus 97. Okay, so what is this magic number 97, and where did this formula suddenly come from? Char I minus 97. Okay, now if you recall your ASCII values, the real ASCII values, not the ASCII values of the question, the real ASCII values are like this. A character A, alright, A is having a value or has a value of 97 in integer form. Okay, that is, A will correspond to 97. Just try to print A as an integer in any of your language, and you'll understand that it's actually its ASCII value is 97. Okay, then character B is 98. Okay, so what would happen is you'll convert this. So instead of it being char of I, what you do is over here, this char of I is there. You take this ASCII value and subtract from 97, which means if you subtract A's value from 97, then this value automatically maps to 0. If you subtract 98's value from 97, then it becomes 1. Correct? So 0 will so the computer will know automatically that, hey, if I want to update the frequency of this character, I have to go and update array of 0, right? And array of 0 is reserved for A. Similarly, if I want to go and update the character value of B, then I go and update array of 1, because that's what I get. Character B minus 98 is nothing but 1. It will map to 1. And this goes all the way up to Z. Z will automatically map to 25. That's the beauty of this approach. It's a small trick. I think some of you may already know. If you didn't know it, it's the simple trick to do. Now, this is when we're giving lowercase characters. If we were given uppercase characters, we would just offset with whatever is the ASCII value of capital A. ASCII value of capital A is nothing but 65. So you do not minus 97, but you do 65 at that point, right? So just go and confirm this value, but yes, it is 65 as far as I remember. And so you just go and update A of 65 is, sorry, A of whatever the char is minus 65. So it would start from 0, go up all the way up to whichever number it has to go to, right? Similarly over here, char I minus 97 will start from 0 and will go all the way up to 25, right? That's really the only trick over here. So once we start going through each value in the string, which is nothing but, let's say we had C, A, B, B, C, C, right? Let's say that's what we had. When we're at C, we'll update the value to 1. We'll update 2's value to be 1. When we're at A, we'll update this value as 1. When we're at B, we update this value as 1. But then we encounter another B, so we just update it as 2. Then we encounter another C, it becomes 2. Then we encounter another C, this becomes 3. That's what it becomes. So we have 1, 2, 3. That's what we get, right? So we have at this point, that is at 3, 1, at the end of this loop, when we are traversing through the string, at the end of this string loop, what has happened is we have filled up our frequency array. So over here, frequency array is filled up, right? So our entire frequency array would have been filled up. It was already filled with zeros initially, but now it has been filled up or updated, right? So now all of the frequency values have been updated. Okay. Now if once we have the frequency values, how do we even know that those frequency values are correct or wrong? Well, for that we just have to use a simple thing, which is nothing but, one second, right? So we have these values at any given point. If it is a super ASCII string, if the character occurs, it has to occur exactly the number of times that its value is. What does that mean? For example, you take this string here. If A has occurred, if everything is initially 0, then what will happen is this array would be filled up with some values. Let's say the values are filled up by some, over here it is filled by 2, but over here it is filled by 5, right? So this represents A, B, C, D, so on till X, Y, Z, right? If the value is 0, then we don't care because it has not even appeared even once. So that's fine with us, not a problem. So every 0 is okay with us because those values have not even come up as yet, right? But those values that have occurred, B, we have to make sure that they are 1 plus 1. That is because we are following a 0 based index, right? So what will happen is if B has to occur twice, that means at any given point of time, A of I should be equal to I plus 1. For example, at D, it has occurred 5 times, but it should have occurred 4 times because the index is 3. It should have come up 4 times. So for D, 5 equal to I plus 1, 4 is false. So this kind of a string would not be a super ASCII string. So once we have filled up our frequency array, we have to make sure that either A of I equal to 0, in which case not a problem, we have never even come across it, very good, or A of I should be equal to I plus 1, because any other value apart from I plus 1 is not going to help us at all. It will mean that it has not occurred the exact number of times as we wanted it to occur, right? So those are the two things that we should be checking about, right? Now let's just go back to the question and see if there were any edge cases or something. Should we have been checking for any edge cases? We are checking it. So the constraints are this: there will be at max 100 test cases in a file, and the maximum length is going to be 400, which is also fine, not a problem, and will contain only lowercase alphabets, which is fairly simple. So right, so there is nothing like invalid input or output. So yeah, it is a really simple question, right? So just going back to the slides, let me just recap the slides because that's really about it in terms of the approach. So the approach is: the first step, take the input. Second, generate an array of 26 zeros like we saw over here. What is the reason for generating the array of 26 zeros? Just 1 minute. Second. What is the reason of generating these 26 zeros? This array is the frequency array. That is, it represents how many times each character has come up in the string. Then we go through the string. When I say go through the string or traverse through the string, we go through each character one by one. We take first C, then we take A, then we take B, then we take B, then we take C, and so on. Whenever we are at a particular character, we are going to update the count of that character in our frequency array. So we'll update the count of that character in our frequency array. That's what we'll do. And then once the array is filled up, we'll traverse through the array again and check, is 1 0? No, it's not, but it is I plus 1, so it's working. Is 2 0? No, but it is I plus 1, so it works. 3 is 2 plus 1, so it's good. Or anything else we have over here? No, they are all zeros, and as long as they are zeros, they don't bother us, so we are fine with that, right? Once we are done with this, If we don't find any problem, we print yes. If we find some problem, we just print out no and move on to the next test case. So that was a pretty simple CodeVita 2014 question, super ASCII string checker, not really that difficult. And if it wasn't really that difficult, I really challenge you, go on to the Edyst platform and just start doing this code right now. I'm online. I'm more than happy to help you right now about this code because it will make you feel really good. It's one of those easy first questions that you can get, and if you just finish this question, this could be question number 1 or question number 2, and if I am you, I'll try to finish this question, and there's a good chance you can get through to the next round, right? So go ahead, try this question out right now. It would be really good for your confidence to try out such an easy question. And if you are still stuck, like, it's okay if you're still stuck in this question because you may not have done a lot of practice. It's fine, our team is there. I am online on the chat to help you, as well as online on the forums to answer any questions that you might have. So with that, as always, what I'll do is I just want to remind you to please like this video, share this video if you found the solution to be helpful. Please share this video with your friends so that even they are able to get this trick of how to find the frequency of a character in a string. The overall question was easy, but this trick will help you in many other places. For this trick is called bucketing because we created a bucket for every character. So that bucketing will help you in any other place also. You can find the frequency of numbers, you can find the frequency of other strings like this. So these are bucketing techniques which will be useful to you in other places as well. So do share with your friend, this technique might just be helpful. Do subscribe to this video, and what we're going to do is open the floor for question and answers, and that's my favorite part of this. So I'll answer some questions that you might have about CodeVita, about anything else. So do let me know if you have any questions, and I'll be happy to answer it. All right, I'll just wait to hear from my team if I have any questions.
Right. The first question we got is we have just about 6 days left for CodeVita, and one is practicing the questions which you are asking us, and one is revision. So, what kind of revision do you expect us to do?
Okay, very good. So the question that's being asked is, we have just 6 days for CodeVita. One is either I can start practicing new questions, but I also have to revise old questions. So how do I go about doing the revision of the old questions? So for the revision of the old questions, let me just open up the Edyst platform so that we are all on the same page. So for the revision of the old question, the best thing to do is go back to your questions. So you have all of these questions open in front of you. Take one module every day and at random open any two questions which you are not really that comfortable with. Open it, don't try to think of the entire solution, try to read the important methods, because the same question is not going to come again, but what will come is some part of it. For example, let's say you are doing this question, count the factor, right? Now count the factor is a decent question, it's not too difficult, it's not too easy, but when you open the code there will be many test cases and there will be some edge cases you might have done. That's fine, that leave that to the side. Read the part where you found the prime number, right? Those are the functions you should revise. How to find the prime number, how to find the number of factors of a factorial. Those are the kind of things that you should be revising. So in every problem, try to remember the formula and don't try to go into the exact logic of the question again. That's fine, it has gone now, leave that. As a revision, go to each question every day and try to remember, hey, yeah, this was a special formula that I picked up over there, this was the special technique that we picked up over there, because all of these techniques will eventually help you crack CodeVita.
Right. So, we have just 5 days left. Would you be conducting anything like a mock CodeVita for us so that we can practice a little more and see how we stand?
Yes, so the question is, we have just 5 days left. Will there be any mock tests or mock CodeVitas? Absolutely, yes. That's the good news. We are planning to do some mock Vitas and CodeVitas, and the questions will be a mixture of the mock Vita 1 and 2 plus the CodeVita questions that were already asked in zone 1. So we'll do a combination of this. Just again, once again, subscribe to this channel, because you will only get the news of it if you subscribe to this channel. So I will be sending out emails and SMSs about that as well, about how we are going to plan the mock vita and the code vita questions. But yes, that's coming up, and it will be done in the next week itself.
Two very interesting questions. The one question they're asking is, in which programming language the problem has to be solved in CodeVita?
Okay, so I think this question is being asked by Pritish. So hi Pritish Ranjan, thanks for joining us. So the question is, what kind of questions do you suggest? The question is, which programming language has to be solved. So the programming language that you should use to solve Code Vita is any one of the programming language that is prescribed by them. For example, you can use Python, C++, Java, C, Perl, Ruby, C Sharp, any one of these languages. Use the one in which you are most comfortable with. Don't use the one like, say, like Python. It's so cool to look at and it's so easy to write in. If you are not comfortable in it, if you don't know the syntax, don't use that. Please don't use that language. Use the language that you are most comfortable in. This is not the time to learn a new language. It's just 5 days left and you don't want to be learning a new language right now. So please go to your fundamentals, the one in which you are most comfortable in. For example, let's say you have to take an input, a string, and an input and decimal, and suddenly this question comes up. If you don't know how to do this one in your language, in a new language, then you will be stuck. It might give some really cool functions and whatever, but if you don't know how to take an input in a string and a decimal, you will be stuck. Your own language, no matter how big and bloated and slow it might look to you, if you are comfortable in it, it is still faster than the new language, because what matters is the speed of writing the code, not the speed at which it executes. If you are right, if written the right logic, then the execution will happen. Focus on your comfortability with the language. Okay, next question.
The question we have is, you kept on mentioning that there is something called edge cases. If I don't get all the edge cases, will I still get points and will it be considered as a qualifying?
Okay, so two parts to the question. I mentioned that there are edge cases, and should I get all the edge cases to get points in Code Vita? Number one, what is an edge case? An edge case is one that is not part of the main case. Just coming back to the question, let's say super ASCII string checker, the one that we did right now. An edge case over here would be, let's say that they gave us uppercase characters, or they gave us string which is empty, and we didn't think of empty strings, right? So then what should we be doing? So in those scenarios, that is what is called an edge case. As far as I know, what will happen is not all of the test cases will have an edge case. Only some of the test cases will have. And CodeVita has partial marking. So even if you don't get all the edge cases, if you still get some edge cases, it's fine. You'll get some marks for it. So this is a very good advice in the sense that try to finish the program and get some output at least. Once you've got some output, then start thinking of the edge cases also. So get some output and then start thinking of the edge cases. At least for that some output, you will get some marks.
Dheeraj has asked one question and there's another follow-up questions. I'll combine both of them. If I compile the code many times and multiple times during the exam, will it affect the points in the exam? And the follow-up question for somebody from somebody else is there a point where I should stop doing and move to the next question?
Okay, very good. So Dheeraj asks, if I keep compiling the code on the platform, will it actually make me lose points? Dheeraj, that's a very good question. I've attempted many contests, like for example, Code Forces. There are some programming contests in which you do lose points, in some you don't lose points. For CodeVita specifically, you would have to check the contest rules. So I'll also check that and I'll get back to you on that part. But please go and check the contest rules and they'll tell you 99% they will not be cutting any marks as far as I know. But still, do go ahead and check the contest rules. That's why the best thing to do is compile as many times on your own platform. If let's say you're just changing a certain like one semicolon or one simple condition, then don't try to do those experiments on their platform. Better to do that experiment on your platform and then upload the code. So as far as I know, there shouldn't be a penalty for that, but please check the the contest rule for it. So that would be good. And the second
See, he's If I am stuck at a problem,
Okay,
should I
so
move on?
if I'm stuck at a problem, at what point should I move on? Okay, so the way I generally tend to think about this is, if I'm stuck at a problem, I'll keep trying to think about two, three approaches. So even before I start, I never start coding. I start by looking at the approaches that I have. I look at two, three approaches. If I come across a satisfactory approach, that is, it may not be very optimal, but at least it gets some output. I'll try to code that up and I'll try to submit it and get some marks and then move on to the next question. Now, the whether the next question is something you know or not also depends. Let's say it's a 2D array question, you're very good at it, but it involves some recursion and you don't know any recursion. It's better to spend time here than to try to discover a new recursion technique. Because let's say even if you figured out the recurrence relation over there, you may not be able to code it because you don't have enough recursion practice. So it's really, you have to look at it on case by case basis. My again the idea that I'll give you here is, if at the approach stage itself you're stuck for more than 15 minutes, that is, you spent 15 minutes, you still didn't get the approach, move on. Don't try to waste your time in just trying to figure out the approach. In 15 minutes, if you've not figured out the approach, move on to the next question, come back later and see if your mind has come up with any new ideas. But at the approach stage, if you're stuck for more than 15 minutes, just move on to the next question.
So a couple of very specific compilation and coding questions. For edge cases, what should we print? Because they don't mention the output that should be printed.
Okay, so for edge cases, what should we print? Because they don't mention the output that should be printed. Well, actually, for all the edge cases, they will mention an output that has to be printed. For example, if let me just open up a question for you so that you can also understand. I'm just picking up a question. Okay, so this question is called Mystery of Sky. Okay, and in this Mystery of Sky, if you can see, the output format is, for valid input, print the count of the number of stars in the sky on the given date. For invalid input, print invalid date for invalid date, or print invalid day for invalid day. So they've gone even that specific, that based on which invalidity are you supposed to print it. And again, these are edge cases. So they 99.9% they will give you what is the output to be given in terms of an edge case. If they have not given it, then you are probably misunderstanding it. So for example, you're supposed to give a certain output, but it's already understood. For example, in the given question of a super ASCII string checker, if it was given as an empty string, I think the answer should be yes, because yeah, an empty string is still following all of the ASCIIs, right? There is no character over there. So try printing yes over there, even though nothing is mentioned in the question. So by logic, it still at least makes to be yes, right? Similarly, in terms of factorial, let's say you're supposed to print the factorial of a number. 0 factorial, we all know, is 1, but they have not told what you're supposed to print for 0 factorial. So stick to convention, stick to what is known, and 0 factorial you should print as 1. So for all edge cases, they will give what has to be the output, and if they don't get, then just stick to the normal convention.
So Manikanta is asking how to take an input from a user, whether it's an integer or a string.
Okay, so Manikanta, thanks a lot for that question. How do we take an input from an user, whether it's an integer or a string? Let me just show you this thing. You go to the Edyst platform. There is a topic that we have on CodeVita 2019 called, and it's part of the free module. So even if you're not part of the platform, just log in, check the free module. There's an entire topic of taking input, where I have about 10-minute tutorials on what you actually do about supposed to take in input from. The input types will vary differently. Basically speaking, the input format for any CodeVita question is like this, like the one that I had mentioned earlier. So I'll just bring that slide up. Uh, yeah, it is, you have to first input t, and t is the number of test cases. So the first thing that you input is, one second, yeah. So the first thing that you input is t, the number of test cases, and then you will run a loop for t. So you can either use like a while loop, or you can use for int I equal to 0, I less than t, I plus plus. You can use something like this, and in that you take whatever input you're supposed to take. So if you're supposed to take an integer, take input integer. Again, depends on your language. If you're C, you will use scanf. If you are Python, you will use input, and you'll then convert it to an integer. For Java, you will use scan.nextInt, and so on. So that depends on your language. So the input format would be something like they're giving you a number of test cases, and for each test case you're supposed to take certain number of inputs. So just write those input statements over here, right? For more details, just go and check the taking input module that we have created, and that will clear all of your misconceptions or any confusions that you have. And if you're still stuck, just ping me on the Edyst platform and I'll be happy to help.
Yep, I think we have one fun question to wrap up. So this question is, what is your take on the match which is going to happen?
Okay, so the fun question is, what is the take on the match that is going to happen? I just checked that we scored. Sri Lanka scored 260. I didn't even expect them to cross 200. So I didn't check the score so far. My prediction is Rohit Sharma to score another 200 plus. That was my prediction because he loves playing against Sri Lanka. But I didn't check the score. I don't know if he's out or not as yet. So I don't know. So, but yeah, Rohit Sharma for 200 plus. Remaining to be scored by Hardik Pandya, two of my favorite players. That's my prediction. But I'm not that good at cricket, so don't quote me on that. Right? Okay. Do let me know if there are any questions. That's it. Thank you so much, everyone. It means a lot to us that you were able to join while India is playing Sri Lanka in the last group stage match. Hopefully, Australia loses and we end up first. So that will be a fun match, fun scenario also. For any questions, for anything, I'm online tomorrow on the Edis platform also. Please feel free to message me. Don't stop your CodeVita preparation just for the cricket match. Take a break and then come back and at least do one question before you sleep. Okay. And just the last thing, who was the first person to chat today?
So the first person today who said hello is Mr. Manikanta Reddy.
So Manikanta, thanks for being the first person. So huge shout out to Mr. Manikanta for being the first person to say hello on the chat. We just put the chat online and he's the first person to say hi. So good stuff, Mr. Manikanta Reddy. Really keep up the enthusiasm. We like when other students are so enthusiastic, so it's really good, right? And the second most in the, what you could say, and the second, very second, close second over there is Kosra Chandrasekhar. So congrats to you as well for being the second to say hi. And all right, we'll stay tuned for the next webinar, and stay tuned for the announcements on mock vitas and code vitas that are coming up. All right, thank you so much everybody for being online. All the best and see you all soon. Okay, see you. Bye bye.